Welcome to the Sacred Partnership Podcast, where relationships become the emotional, erotic, and spiritual adventure of a lifetime. I'm your host, Sarah Olivia. I'm a certified relationship and sex coach, a practitioner and teacher of the neo-tantric arts, and a lifelong seeker on the spiritual path. I know from my own decade-long partnership that the depth of connection, the level of mind-blowing intimacy, and the feeling of sacred devotion with a beloved, all of the reasons why we get into a relationship in the first place, these things require intention, practice, and skill. And that's what I'm teaching here. Each week, I will be weaving ancient wisdom, the most impactful relational teachings, as well as my own lived experience on this path, so that you and your beloved can create a partnership which feels rich with aliveness, truth, pleasure, and devotion. So get comfy and let's dive in. Welcome back, my loves. I hope that you are well. I hope you are thriving, feeling your essential wholeness and aliveness, especially at this beautiful summer solstice moment. It is a wonderful moment, I think, for reflection on the year so far, the first 6 months and a bit of the year, and really looking forward at what the rest of the year can hold, and not necessarily, and this is very much related to the episode today, not necessarily in the context of like, what are all the things I'm going to achieve and improve about myself, but how can I be even more in alignment with what is true for me? How can I be even more in devotion to myself, to my beloved, to my partnership? Obviously, that is always very central to my questioning. How can I be even more in alignment with my deeper needs? I'm absolutely cracking up over here. I just had to pause the recording. I'm 1 minute in, just settled in to record this podcast, and a man with a leaf blower went past my window. Center, acceptance, loving presence. We can do this. So, where was I? I actually wanted to start today with an invitation, a recommendation that is not in any way related to the topic of the podcast today, but I was at a concert on Friday evening here in London, and that's one of the best things about living in London again, is there's just so much incredible art, music, culture to experience. And one of my absolute favorite artists, Mega, who is not wildly well known, she's quite young and not particularly prolific. I think she has about 17 songs. Her name is Mega, Mega. She is an absolutely sensational musician, singer, songwriter, melody writer. And I've been listening to her for a little while, and I find her music like deeply resonant. She has an incredibly powerful, very pure transmission in her voice and also in her lyrics. So if you find a lot of healing and a lot of aliveness in music, and that's something that helps you find that sense of heart openness and soul resonance, I highly, highly recommend listening. I had the best evening on Friday, and it really called me back to truth and center, a feeling of wholeness, which was so perfect because I had a really big weekend, which I'll tell you a little bit more about in a moment, because it does sort of relate to what I want to talk to you about today. So what is really alive for me today, and what I want to make this episode about, is how do we get the best out of our partners? How do we help them flourish? And namely, especially for today's episode, what do we not do? What is the thing that we want to stop doing so that our partners can flourish? So I am incredibly guilty of this. This is something that was probably in the top 3 problematic, borderline toxic behaviors that I brought into my partnership, and probably could have caused us splitting up in the long run if I hadn't changed this. So as with, most of the topics in this podcast, this is something that I have a very real, raw lived experience of. But this is also something that I see coming up in the couples that I work with constantly. This was something that was incredibly present in the session that I ran on Friday afternoon before I finished for the weekend. So it's feeling really, really alive and really important. And I really want you to take this on board. I invite you to take this on board. This will serve you so much in the health, the safety, the thriving in your relationship. Okay, Sarah, just tell us, what is it? This is not going to come as a wild surprise, but pushing our partners and trying to kind of hold them very strictly accountable to what we believe they should be doing, to what we believe they owe us, and to what we believe is them showing up for their highest potential, is a fast track to them wilting, and is a fast track also to your partnership wilting. I see in a lot of partnerships where there is a lesser degree of safety and therefore a lesser degree of closeness and enjoyment in the partnership. One of the elements of this is often one or both partners behaving like each other's commander-in-chief, boss, parent, strict teacher. Nothing can kill attraction faster, firstly. Like, this is partially a polarity issue, which we'll talk about in a separate episode. Nothing can kill attraction faster. And this is also incredibly damaging to a sense of trust, safety, and to the feeling of being truly loved. And I don't believe that unconditional love exists with another person, because there always is something that we can do, like horrific things that we could do to our partner or just in the world, that can obviously yield the relationship ending and someone not loving us anymore. But we want to get as close as possible to a sense of unconditional love. And if there is a feeling of, I only love you if you tick all of these boxes, that is really damaging to the sense of wholeness and the sense of robustness in the relationship. So this is something that I am spectacularly guilty of, that I have been spectacularly guilty of in the past, and I have to really notice this in myself coming up, because this is hardwired in me because of my family of origin and because of our culture of origin, right? Like, we live in a world that is about push, do more, be more. Right? We're not living in a world of a lot of acceptance and compassion and graciousness. That is the reality. So this is something that I brought into my relationship big time, because when I was growing up, love did not feel unconditional, and there wasn't a huge amount of emphasis on emotional fulfillment or emotional attunement, on the various ways that we can thrive as humans and the various ways that we want to connect to our sense of wholeness and aliveness as humans. It was very much, which is not in any way unique, I'm not a special, unique unicorn in this, very, very much like, what are your academic results? Where are you going to go to university? What corporate job are you going to get? And if you fail at any of these things, if you don't hit the mark every time, you've done something wrong. And that's a problem. I had that to quite an extreme degree growing up, but I know that that is quite normal. Like, that's not something that I'm in any way special around. So I brought that into our relationship, and we were very young, and my partner hadn't really learned that he was allowed to express boundaries and say no and push back, and was also incredibly devoted and so wanted everything to work and to give me everything that I wanted. So he just took all of it on. He took all of the pressure and the conditions and the expectations that I was placing on him, and it just ate him from the inside out with stress. You'll notice I do not come off well in a lot of these stories. And I say this, I share these things because that does not mean that I'm an inherently bad person or an unworthy person to be in a relationship or to be loved. But it means that that is something that I need to hold, that I need to heal, that I need to be aware of. I'm not unique in this. This is not an atypical thing to bring into a relationship. I think the reason why it was so starkly imbalanced in my relationship is because my partner did not initially bring that into our partnership. But because in relationship, we are mirrors of each other in so many different ways. One of the ways in which we mirror each other is we mirror each other's behaviors. So if I treat you like that, if I treat you with conditionality, with pressure, with really high expectations, and with very little grace and compassion for what is acceptable, what's the wiggle room? Nothing. It's best or nothing, right? If I bring that energy into the relationship, my partner's going to start to do that to me as well. And that is a space where very few people will thrive. You might, best case, succeed in a capitalistic sense, right? You might, through total fear of failure and a need to prove yourself, succeed in the way that most of the people that have succeeded massively in the world at large, especially in corporate spaces or in leadership spaces and political spaces, like, a lot of these people come to that from this deep, deep lack pressure, whatever their specific special cocktail of inner child wounding and inadequacy is. But even if you have, quote unquote, succeeded, there is a hollowness to that, and your relationship will suffer for it nonetheless. Worst case, that kind of pressure does not in any way motivate you or your partner, and you will just wither. You will be suffocated under the weight of it. You will be paralyzed, and you won't be able to thrive in the way that you otherwise could. You know what's even better than talking about sacred partnership? Practicing it. So I created a free sacred date night for you and your beloved. It's a 30-minute guided audio practice for you and your beloved to get emotionally naked together. And if you like, you can get actually naked too. Fall even deeper in love and maybe even lead into some epic and magical lovemaking. If this sounds like something you want access to, and I can think of no good reason why you wouldn't want access to this, you can head down to the link in the show notes or head over to saraholivia.com and click on the top bar of any page, and that will take you to access the practice. Have so much fun, enjoy, and let me know how it goes. I think this is an enormously simple but radical idea to bring into our relationships, because the world is tough enough. There are enough ways that we can stumble and fall short as we move through life. The world is not set up in a way that's particularly easy to thrive, right? So we want to make our relationship a space of ultimate safety, ultimate support. We are the safety net. We are the safe place to land. Yes, we want to propel our partners and support them on their journey of growth, on their journey of meeting their highest potential. But they do not owe that to us. Right? We owe it to them to support, but in a way that feels like, I've got you anyway. I love you no matter what. I completely accept you no matter what. You are safe no matter what. So this is quite a fundamental element of sacred partnership, of conscious relating. Often we go into relationships thinking, what can I get out of this? And in this model of how we can support and how we can help our partner flourish, and how can we can, also flourish in return, because everything is a two-way, everything is a continuous co-created dynamic we pour in mutually. But we're thinking about, what can I give? What can I pour in? What is the support and the structure that I can pour in that enables my partner to grow, to thrive, to meet our vision? So it's not so much expectation, it's a shared vision, shared values that you orientate yourself towards, and you are both continuously pouring in that support, that sense of love, safety, and belonging. And this is absolutely crucial, because you can think, oh my gosh, but like, if I'm not pushing them, they're not going to show up. But what child really, truly has ever thrived from overwhelming pressure and from a feeling that if they don't do it perfectly, they won't be completely loved and accepted? The children that are thriving are the ones that know they are unconditionally loved. And yes, we are not parenting our partners, but we want to model that secure caregiver as much as possible so that they can also internalize that for themselves. So, how does support now look in my relationship? Because we're not in any way hands off with each other. My partner and I are very close teammates in all elements of our life, our routines, our work, our health. Much more so than many couples, actually. I can see a lot of couples where there's incredibly independent existences. And there's nothing necessarily wrong with that. But I think that this interdependence, this level of deep support, this is a way that we can actually catalyze growth and realization of highest potential in a way that feels deeply aligned, deeply nourishing, and feels like something that we are feeding into the partnership and then receiving nourishment from the partnership. So this is always crucial. We feed in and we receive, both into the partnership and into each other, as opposed to I put pressure and I want to extract something out of you. It's different. So an example of how this now looks in my relationship is there is space for fear. There is space for fear and doubt. It is wildly compassionate. There is never any sense of shutting each other down if we are saying, I'm terrified, I can't do this. Like, I'm an entrepreneur, I run my own business. That can be absolutely terrifying. I have a lot of wobbly moments where I think this is not going to work, nobody cares what I have to say, etc., etc. And in the past, because there was so much pressure and fear between us that this might be the case, that like maybe this is true, maybe I can't make it work. And because my partner was so under-resourced with the pressure that I was placing on him, he was not in a position to give me that space, that safety, and that support to say, okay, like let's meet that together. Let's feel that. It's okay. That's totally understandable. How can I support you? How can I support you? This is such an important question. How can I support you? And before that question, even, it's like, what do you want? What do you actually want to create, achieve, to grow into? And how can I support you, as opposed to ever assuming, as opposed to making wrong? So a way that my partner has really created this space for me, as an example, is this weekend. He set up a beautiful business day retreat for me. We've had a couple of years of massive change of making this move to London. I have been in deep education, training. We've had so many different logistical pieces to figure out in our life. So my business has not been at the forefront of our life and our priorities. But now we have a little bit of more stability in our life. My husband has more capacity. And so he created this beautiful day for us to give space to everything in my work. Where I'm going, what I want to create, what do the next couple of years look like? What are we pouring in? What do I need support on? What are the structures? So this is very hands-on. It's very hands-on. I feel like I have a teammate. I feel like more like I have a business partner. But there's no sense of a heaping amount of expectation while also I'm expected to just kind of figure it all out by myself. And if I put a foot wrong, if I stumble, then that's a huge disappointment. It's so different. They're both hands-on, but one of them is supportive and one of them is suffocating, controlling, but with absolutely no element of trust and safety. If you are feeling the soul level call to sacred partnership, if you want to walk the path of devotion and ever evolving aliveness with your beloved, the Sacred Partnership Portal is your invitation and your initiation. This 6-month journey is the answer to your feeling that there could and should be more to your relationship and sex life. The reality is that most relationships are operating on autopilot within a tiny spectrum of what we are capable of experiencing with our beloved. Sacred partnership is the key to unlocking a full spectrum, intentional experience of love, pleasure, and devotion. It is my highest offering, and it is the emotional, erotic, and spiritual adventure of a lifetime. You can reach out to me directly on any platform or find a link to inquire in the show notes. This is relevant not only to, let's say, academia, work, success, business stuff, although of course like that's going to be hugely relevant in this topic for most partners. This also relates to self-development. This is also one of the shadows that I see in the self-development world, in the spirituality space, where we actually start to take on the capitalist, performance-based, you are never enough unless you do XYZ culture beliefs. We take that on and apply it to our self-development. We apply it to our spirituality. And so sometimes there can be this pressure on our partners, like, I expect you to now do this practice and this practice, this workout. I want you to go on this course. I want you to do all of these things so that you can be the person that I want you to be. And actually, spirituality is not about doing a certain set of practices. It's not about ticking any boxes. It's not about a set of achievements in the self-development world or the spiritual world. It's about coming home. It's about awakening to our essential wholeness and divinity. Our true nature is being totally unconditionally loved. All parts of us being worthy, being welcome, being loved. Bringing all of this home, coming to this sense of wholeness. I use that word a lot. That is what we are striving for. Striving. That's what we're seeking. And that's what we want to support our partners to experience. And that's what our partners want to support us to experience. From that sense of wholeness, the degree to which we can take action in alignment, the degree to which we actually have energy to show up and meet that highest potential is phenomenal. So there is an element of trust. There is a huge element of trust that comes into this, because the question that I had the other day from one of my clients was, I'm terrified if I do not push my partner that they will grind to a halt. I'm terrified of that comfort. I'm terrified that we will stop growing. I'm terrified that we won't go to where we want to go. That, my loves, is a risk that you have to take. There is a radical trust and surrender in this. It's like, I'm pouring all of my trust, my compassion, my support into you, and I cannot control the outcome. I cannot control you. Yes, I can call you into your power. I can call you into your power, but I cannot bully you into doing what I want you to do or into becoming who I want you to become. We have to have this sense of sovereignty and this sense of agency within our partnership. And the fear, of course, is if I don't push you, if you grind to a halt, if you don't become the person that I want you to be, that we have envisioned that you will be, or that we will be together, I'm not going to love you anymore. I'm not going to want to be in this relationship with you anymore. This life that we have built that has been so hard won won't feel right anymore, won't feel aligned. That is something that we have to risk. The risk of radical love and acceptance and support is I pour all of this into you and I cannot control if it will be enough, if it will be mutual, if I will receive the same pouring in, or if I will see you flourish in the way that I hope. And this is where so much suffering in relationship comes from, that we try to control. We try to control, we try to force. And actually, the faith and the trust comes in the surrender. Of course, you have discussions, you create a shared vision, you have shared values, you have clear expectations. You can ask things of each other, to support your mutual lives. But there's a difference between, hey, babe, do you mind doing this? I don't quite have the capacity right now. Or like, hey, let's chat about the division of labor and chores. There's a difference between that and I'm expecting you to do X, Y, Z. Like, you have to get this job. You have to make this much money. You have to be this successful. You have to do these practices. You have to be this fit. You have to lose this much weight. You have to work out this many times a week. That is something that we cannot put on our partner while wanting to retain a sense of honor, devotion, dignity, and sovereignty in partnership. And that is the tricky thing. That is the very tricky thing. Sometimes it requires deeper exploration. If one partner cannot easily release that pattern, it might be because there is a very, very deep existential fear around relinquishing control, around rest. If you, like me, grew up in a world where rest is laziness and not succeeding in these ways might mean that you are destitute and on the street and eventually die. That's literally the fear that I have around failure when I go into that and spend time with the part of myself that gets terrified of what's going to happen if I fail, whatever that means. The fear is I'm going to be on the street and I will die. It is a fear of death. So while I say all of these things, I'm also holding a huge amount of compassion and acknowledgement for the part of you that might really struggle to let go of the need to control, of the need to push your partner, the need to motivate them. Yeah. But beyond this, I really invite you to lean into the trust that beyond this pattern, beyond this way of relating and pushing, is a space of so much safety and support and potential for thriving. So our core needs as human beings, really, in order to be able to thrive, we have the essential, like, basic foundational needs of shelter, enough money, food. Right? That is essential. And then we have love, safety, belonging. These are our core emotional needs for us to feel secure enough to thrive. And thriving in that sense of like wholeness, enoughness, worthiness, and also, yes, being able to step forward and claim whatever it is that we are here to claim and create. whatever our highest potential is, we can step into that, flourish into that from this space of love, safety, belonging. So trust that you can lean past the discomfort of relinquishing the control and together pour in that support, that grace, that compassion, that ultimate safety, and watch yourselves thrive as individuals and as a partnership. I really hope that this lands. I hope that this serves you. If this is a pattern that you have and you want support to integrate this, to release this, if you want the support to actually hold yourself to this, there is actually a sense of holding yourself to the standard of showing up with that radical compassion. Like, I have to hold myself to the standard of I will not control, I will not push, I will not constantly suggest things. I will have trust, I will allow. So if you need support to make that a reality in your life and in your relationship, reach out to me, because this is a game changer. This used to be one of the deepest sources of pain for me and my partner. And now the way that we are able to show up and support each other in our fears, our dreams, our desires, the things that we hope for, the things that we long for, the way that we can show up and hold each other in that now and support each other is beyond anything I could have imagined. So with so much love, if you have any questions, reach out. If you have any comments, I would love to hear them. Until next week. Sacred beings and beloveds, thank you so much for joining me for this episode of the Sacred Partnership podcast. Let me know what landed, what impacted you, what resonated, and what are you going to be integrating this week? I really genuinely want to know. I truly appreciate your support in this work. So every time you review, rate, share, or just generally spread the word about what I'm doing here, it means the absolute world to me, and it really, really helps. So thank you. I'll see you next week. And for now, I am sending you all the love, sex, and magic in the world.